So today we are going to be going into number 3 of 4 of our microgreen for beginners whole little series that we got going on. And number 3, y'all, is going to be broccoli at our farmers market booth. In the last couple of years, I've seen broccoli just skyrocket in popularity. Easily went to one of our lower selling microgreens to arguably the number 1, if not definitely number 2 microgreen that we actually sell. I thought it was actually tied for pea, but it's more so tied for sunflower at our booth. So that's kind of a huge deal, man. Broccoli, a lot of people want broccoli. High in its nutrients, packed with nutrients. Sulforaphane, broccoli, microgreen, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now. Like I said before, this is part 3 of a 4-part series. So if you guys haven't checked out the other videos that are in the series, I suggest that you go back and do it. Especially check out the microgreens for beginners overview. I go over a lot of stuff that's just kind of general for a lot of the crossover or overlap in the series that each one of our microgreens actually kind of overlap. So we talk about the trays, where we get our seeds, all of that stuff is over there. In fact, you don't hear your question answered here about microgreens. Take a look over there, and if I don't answer it there, go ahead and drop your question down below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, please. Let's get involved. Boom. I already kind of showed you guys this. Anyway, I'm going to clear out a little spot here, and we're going to show you guys exactly what I do to seed out the broccoli microgreen. All right, y'all. So here we are. We have our pre-filled tray of medium. What we use here on the plot is a combination of Roots Organic, which is upside down, Roots Organic, and then we also use a coconut coir. To get the prices and all that stuff, go and check out Microgreens for Beginners Overview. I go through all of it in there. We have our empty tray, our blank canvas, if you will. Just like every other microgreen, broccoli is no different. What we're going to do is water it in. Boom. As you can see, I got it fairly saturated. You can actually water your microgreens after you seeded them. Pre-watering my tray allows me to know that I've given my seeds enough water without disrupting their placement. Seeds float, and if I over water them, kind of how I've done here, what will end up happening is that the seed will start to float and they'll end up pulling. And this will cause overlap and ultimately a lot of problems in the future. If you do in fact water your microgreens after, I would suggest using a mist setting. You don't necessarily have to, although the mister setting seems to do a lot better for the situation. I feel it's worth repeating that if you are using something smaller and you don't have a mister setting, then a good spray bottle will go a long way through the course of you growing your microgreens. Keep them near your grow. We're out here in Fontana, so we're extremely dry. So I like to saturate my trays a little bit more than probably what a lot of other people will. These trays won't be watered for 2 to 3 days. Right now, we're kind of just going through some weird weather. It's California, so everything's getting very just crazy. For this time of year, this is plenty of water. Let me go get the seeds. So here's some broccoli. We pretty much keep all of our seeds here inside of one of these little totes, if you will, just because I don't like bringing the bags out. There's a lot of water flying around. These are waterproof, and it makes it a lot easier for us to actually get the job done without me really worrying about me damaging a whole bunch of seed in one go. So that's why we leave everything in here. We'll be using a 50 milliliter measuring cup. A lot of people will actually go to the weight. This was actually based off of a weight before. This is how we came to this conclusion of using a 50 milliliter. Easier for me just to do it in volume. I can move way faster. I'll show you 2 different ways, 2 different styles in which I like to do my microgreens. The 50 mil. So I've seen a lot of different things over the years in terms of what people will use to actually do this application. I've just kind of got the dexterity together to use these cups. That's pretty much all you need. Especially when it comes to the smaller seeds, I've seen people use like herb shakers, kind of broadcaster seed. I've seen people use very expensive seeders, if you will. Yeah, I think for the 50 mil, you actually might go to Amazon. It's one way of doing it. Let's put this guy here. The other way that I like to do it, actually that I would prefer to do it, and if I wasn't working with different people here, I probably would just do it this way. For the first year or 2, I was actually training people how to use their fingers. We were running into way too many problems. That's when we went over to the cup. But using your fingers is just as good, if not better. This tray has already been pre-watered. What you're gonna see is that this tray is pretty much gonna look just like this tray, really. It might actually have a little bit more because I can get a little bit more precise with using my fingers. And all I'm doing is just filling it in and trying to get the microgreens, or sorry, the seeds in here to where this tray is completely full without the microgreens or the seeds overlapping. Very important for them not to overlap, especially when you're dealing with your smaller seeds, especially when you're dealing with your smaller seeds. You don't want a lot of overlap. Overlap often ends up in just a lot of loss. But there you go. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same. There is probably a little bit more when I'm using my hand, which if you're doing it at home, that's great for you. We use the cups mainly because it's just the easiest thing for us to communicate, as opposed to using your fingers, which is a little bit more subjective. Next thing for us to do is just go ahead and stack these up. We get really warm out here in California, so where I put them this time of year, it really doesn't matter. However, if you are looking for a spot, put them in an area that's going to be a little bit warmer to make your microgreens sprout faster. A lot of times at this point, you're going to see people throw an empty tray right on top of their microgreens, and then normally it's followed by some type of a paver or bricks or something of that nature. We don't do that here. What we actually do is we'll just simply get another microgreen tray and throw that right on top. This tray right here has water in it now, so it's making it heavy enough to actually push down the seeds into the soil and really giving us a seed to soil contact that we need. What that's going to allow is for your seed to, of course, to stay moist, stay a little bit warm, and then pop a little bit faster, and then actually be able to root itself into the medium. Think of this cover is almost the equivalent of us covering up the microgreen seed with a light layer of compost. We don't do that because what ends up happening is that when you put the compost on top, as the microgreens grow, like kind of where we are now, what will end up happening is that the soil will actually start growing up in here as well, and then make our microgreens that much dirtier. Right now, we really don't deal with a lot of soil, even though we're dealing with soil. We'll go ahead and put this right on top. We'll circle back in the next 3 days and show you what it looks like when these guys are sprouted and ready to get pulled out of the stack. As soon as we get them out of the stack, it's just pretty much time to water them in, man. So I like to use these. These are the Melanor. Just pretty much the rain setting. That's all it is. You can see there. These are the best. I will use the other nozzles or wands as well. I feel like these ones are the best. In my area, we've got to really make sure that our microgreens are really well watered in, just because, again, it gets very hot and very dry, and we're growing pretty much everything outdoors. So we have to make sure that there's an adequate amount of water in each one of them, and these wands work the best for us out here. You might need less. You actually might need more. Right now with our broccoli microgreens, we water pretty much once, twice a day, really kind of depending on where we have them at in the stack. If they're up here, of course, where they're going to get a little bit more heat, we're going to water them at least 2 to 3 times a day. And down here, where they get a little bit more shade, typically we will water them like right about maybe twice a day, 3 times at most. As we get warmer, however, 3 becomes more the norm. Now, if you guys are doing a smaller batch of microgreens, like in a smaller tray, a pie tin, something that's half of this, right? Or even a quarter of this, really. You're gonna wanna use a spray or a mist. A spray bottle works great. A lot of times you can find the Melanors or other types of nozzles that actually have like a misting setting. Those work really well as well. But you really want to have something that's somewhat gentle. When we start getting them into higher canopy, like showing the wine starting. When you start getting into higher canopy, you definitely want to have something like this, just to make sure that that water is getting down into the soil where it really needs it. And also, they do somewhat need it on top of the canopy a little bit, but more so on the soil. I know a lot of you guys probably have actually heard as well that you should be watering these microgreens from the bottom when they get to this point. This is very true. Something that you're just gonna kind of want to play around with this time of year. This water right here, y'all, is gonna evaporate relatively fast. One key thing too that you really want to keep in mind if you do plan on watering or overhead watering your microgreens when they're in full canopy, like you just see me do, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that, one, your climate, you know exactly what to expect when you do something like that. And then two, you want to make sure that your microgreens aren't 100% depleted, right? You see how mine are still standing? They're on the edge. These guys are right on the verge. They've kind of made it all day without being watered. But these are pretty much at that level or that line that I don't want to cross. If they got any more dry, then yeah, I would probably go ahead and underwater them. However, I've gotten away with not use precaution there. If they are in fact wilted and withering, and I feel as though I can bring them back, then I'll go ahead and bottom water. But right now, we're good. Like I was kind of telling you in the microgreen for beginners, the overview, you kind of will just do something like this if you are in fact in an area that overhead watering is not going to work. What you'll do is we'll use these guys. You're going to get 2 trays. You're going to get one that doesn't have holes, right? And then you're going to find one that does have holes. Now I'm not doing that with these guys because I actually have something in them. But if I did need to do this, what I would actually do, fill this bottom one up with water, maybe up to this point right here. I think it's right about 2 cups or so. It's like this one has holes at the bottom. And let this water that's in this tray wick up into the water, at least to that root level of this tray right here. That might be a little bit safer for you. If you are a beginner, I would definitely recommend starting with the microgreen trays that have the holes at the bottom. Reason being is that you can actually water a lot more and get away with a lot more because of the extra airflow that these trays allow. Just that don't have holes, they can definitely be used. It's a little bit more of a timing issue with the ones without holes. At least that's what I find in my climate. I've seen on several other microgreen videos, specifically broccoli, where people feel as though they need to dark out or black out the tray. What that means is that you just pretty much take an old tray, like a solid tray, one that doesn't have holes. This one's kind of dirty. And then you kind of just place it on top of your microgreens, just like that. Give them right about a day or so to grow light deprived, if you will. And this will help them stretch out. I find in my area that I don't need that at all. In fact, we're actually loading up for the market right now. Let me show you guys. Do I have any broccoli right here? Oh, here we go. So here we go. This guy right here is right at 8 days. Beautiful microgreen tray, right? Beautiful. Probably closer to 2 inches. I'll actually get some water on her. I don't know how she made it into the van. So we're gonna throw some water on her and she'll perk right up. That's what you're pretty much looking for, guys. I never black out. I don't black out any of my trays here. I just don't need to. Yeah, I just don't need to. I have done it in the past. If you do feel as though you need to do that, by all means do it. It might increase the amount of days that are in your that your microgreens are actually going to be in the grow. So that's something that you definitely want to think about right now. By me not blackening them out, I am saving some time. Here on the plot, we actually harvest our microgreens for the most part 1 of 2 ways. We're going to either use our knife, which is my favorite, or we will use our scissors. Typically at the market, you'll catch us using the scissors. On the plot, we'll be using the knife. Both ways are very similar and quite easy. I just find the knife, especially when it comes to the 10-20 trays, I just move a lot faster, a lot more fluidly with the knife. Basically what you want to do with the knife is I'm always doing my best to stay level to the surface of the soil itself. And I just cut as level as possible, staying above the soil line. These microgreens have been going for right about 8 days. They're the perfect length, or you just use it with the scissors. Pretty much the same technique, same concept. Cool thing with scissors is a lot of times you'll end up lifting as you cut and dislodging other microgreens in the process. And a lot of times what ends up happening is you'll get dirt as a result of that. A lot of times you can just kind of come through. We didn't get any right now, but you can kind of just come through and trim that dirt off. All right, Chuck. Ooh. Average, you're going to get right about a half a pound of broccoli microgreens off of a 10-20 flat. One of the most important things when it comes to harvesting your microgreens is that you want to make sure that your harvesting tool is going to be sharp. Be that a knife or the scissors. A lot of times you'll find browning at the bottom of a lot of the stems on microgreens, and I've always equated that to actually having dull knives or dull equipment. So you want to make sure that you're starting off with sharp instruments. If you guys haven't caught it already, I actually just put up another video on how to wash your microgreens as well as how to store your microgreens for those of you guys at home. All right, y'all, that was number 3, broccoli for the microgreen series. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned. We got one more left, the mighty radish. We'll get into that one next. Let me know what other questions you guys might have. I think I'm going to keep on going with a couple other just growing techniques of microgreens that might be a little bit more difficult to grow here pretty soon. So again, if you guys have any questions about microgreens that you'd like to grow, leave them down below. We'll see if we can't crack the code. Outside of that, y'all, I'll talk to you. Blah.